Guten Tag. Hello, Suzi, Dr. Suzi Morris. It's nice to have you from your studio in London. We are here in our studio at the Da Vinci premises in Nuremberg, and we are happy now to have you as our guest during our digital creative days. Well, I think our spectators, they read a little bit your vita also in our description, but I can say you are a Scottish-born Londoner. Is this correct?
It's very correct. Yes, spot on.
Yes, and you are working and living in London, and we know each other now. I would say 5-6 years. Is this correct?
Do you know, it's actually longer. I'm thinking it's was it 2012, 13? So yeah.
All right. So, you know, time flies. I don't really know, but it was for me as a 2 to 3 time a year London traveler, always nice to meet you and to discuss and to listen of what and how your work is progressing. And I always admired how in peculiar you were talking about your materials and what you need and what is important for a painter today, and that you think you should know as much as possible about the material. So this was always very interesting in our meetings to listen to you, Suzi.
Well, that's one of the things I think that makes you such a world leader, is that your connections with artists and really listening to what artists want to achieve. And it's, of course, it's a two-way process, because it's helpful for me to understand. I understand so much more about brushes and quality brushes.
That's the bad side of a coin, knowing a brush producer, that he's talking maybe too much about brushes all the time. but let me come back to our topic now, which was also our wide brushes, or mottlers, or however you want to call them, the brushes where a lot of people think, oh, this is for wall paint and not for art. But mottler brushes for us the last years and decades have been one of the growing areas in our brush assortment. There were so many new materials coming also into this field. So a lot of new models and variations were developed. And it was very important during that process of widening the assortment to know artists like you, Suzi, which helped us in the whole process. I know that you are a professional point painter that uses a lot of different modelers all the time, like you have wonderfully also in the back of you displayed a variety of the modelers you are using, Suzi. But when we first met, or after the second or third meeting, you said to me in your very polite way, well, Hermann, sometimes I also have a little problem with my modelers. And maybe you can explain once again what this was.
Well, I mean, as an oil painter, I'm quite hard on my brushes, because they have to withstand a lot of pressure, being put in solvents and oil paints generally, and using different mediums. It's, I think it all sort of affects it can affect the longevity of a brush. And I used to find sometimes if I was too heavy-handed on a mottler, you would find a brush, one of the hairs might come loose. So it was wonderful when I contacted you about it, and you invited me out to Nuremberg, and I met Dieter Kohlbauer, and he came up with this amazing solution of the DUROPLUS system.
Yes, I mean, you were not the first to mention this problem, which came all the time, not all the time, but sometimes. And of course, it is a problem which has always been also in combination with a type of brush, because especially the wider the brushes were, when people cleaned them, sometimes they left them in color or in water, And you have these problems if you combine wood and metal and also a fiber that, of course, especially the wood is working. It soaks water in, it widens and gets smaller again. And this was leading to this kind of wobbling effect, which you were really annoying yourself about. Because, I mean, if you have a nice natural 2-inch brush in natural hair, and then you have it after some time that the handle brush head fixation is not absolutely fixed anymore, then you think, what have I done wrong, or what could we do better? I understand that very much.
Yes, yes. So
and this is what you explained.
And actually, since Dieter found a solution to this with the rivet system, you just don't lose hairs anymore. Not on the brushes anyway, maybe on this, but not brushes.
Well, let us describe to our audience what we are really talking about, because it's an improvement of the product which is not really visible on the first view. So I take now maybe here a white brush also in my hand. I don't know whether we can see that well in the camera. The Mottlers you were talking about, the big sizes is what we say are the sizes from 6 inches, 150 millimeter and up, where the problem is really the biggest, because this is quite a heavy tool and not easy to handle. And the idea was to really combine well the fibers and the handle, not only with the ferrule, but also with rivets, as you rightly say. But the real important thing is also, and I maybe show this also on a smaller brush, that the secret is behind the ferrule, that the fibers are dipped deeply into the glue, and the handle is also made in a way that it's fixed with the glue. So even without the metal, the whole thing would be one part. So the metal is helping, but even without the metal, the whole thing would be together. This was the basic idea, what we then called our DUROPLUS system, which is fixed in addition by the single rivets in the bigger sizes. And in the smaller sizes, we do not need the rivets, but we show here with a cutout ferrule that the fibers and the handle and the glue are in one piece. So even if you are letting the brush overnight in water, what you never should do, then the brush is still good the next day, and the materials are not so much working that the whole thing gets loose or wobbling or whatever. And it's great to hear that you confirm that, Suzi.
Yes.
From your daily experience. Right? You can feel this in your daily experience also.
Good. Yes, yes, sorry. No, I definitely do actually. And it gives you a lot more confidence actually using brushes if you, because you don't want to be worried about, you want to be focusing on the art that you're making. And,
well, especially because even these bigger brushes have also their price, and the longevity of a tool you buy is also very important for you. I understand it's an investment to buy a brush like that.
And I mean, you want to, if I think it's important to use archival quality brushes and paints and materials, because at the end of the day, I want my work to survive for a very long time. So no, it's really important.
And then you have the materials and your work, and I'm sure you work with colors and with everything, which is also respecting your aim you just name, because I mean, from the light fastness, and I know that you work with schminke colors also. I think this is also important for you, right?
Yes, yes, because the pigment is so strong and so concentrated, and again, it's all about the longevity of the work and the light fastness. And the same with the brushes, you know, I think it's so important for artists to understand about the materials.
Well, I mean, you showed me and told me also that once in a while, if you have colleagues from the other ateliers around you come to you, they are quite amazed about the variety of brushes you are using.
They certainly are, yes. Yes, and I really enjoyed this morning listening to your speciality brushes, because as you know me, it's all about the marks that you can make with a brush. So it's really exciting for me to see the diversity of your brushes. And I was thinking actually even this morning, putting my makeup on, that I even use some of your cosmetic brushes in my painting, just
yeah. Well, that's the whole philosophy of Da Vinci, that you always think about Da Vinci the whole day. All right. I wanted to ask, can we see a little bit of your work when you work with some Mottlers now in your studio? Can you try to show us a little bit?
What I'm going to do, just a second, excuse me a second.
Take your time, Suzi, take your time.
I lost the EpoCam when we spoke, so I'll just get it back. And yes, what I'm going to show is two things, and I've got some examples. I'll show how the Mottlers are so good for blending and softening. So I'm going to show a sort of gradation of color.
Great, wonderful.
Another thing that these are so incredibly useful for is because the hair has a coarseness, although it's soft, I use it in glazing to make marks into a painting. So we'll start off with the gradation, and I'll just move this on to the right. And now, is this? I wonder if this.
Well, from the light, it's fine.
Yes, right. Okay, I'll work with that. Right.
And you are there in your studio, right, Suzi? You are in London, in your place where you normally are working with all the brushes.
I am, yes, yes. No, I'm very lucky. I have a beautiful studio with, it actually has loads of natural light, although you wouldn't think so today. So I'm using the spin.
The spin, yeah, our series 5080. And are you working now on, is this canvas or paper, or what are you working on, Suzi?
This is on a piece of canvas.
Okay.
So these are beautiful brushes for laying on washes of color.
Mm-hmm. And is this oil paint you are using?
This is Schminke's, it's a tallow blue and a tallow green, which is, they're beautifully rich colors for deep seas or sort of water effects. And if I put a lighter color at the top, then I can.
But it's oil color, Suzi, right?
It is oil color.
Yes.
Yes. I use a lot of oil color, quite like watercolor, only it's with mediums. Okay, so there we have like a wash.
Yes.
Where the blender comes in so well.
Okay. And now this is our blender, series 5A2, which we were talking about before, which you can use now for yes, special effects, for blending, for getting out the right layer, and for kind of what is the right word for that, for glazing, right? Or what is the right English word for what you are doing now?
Well, this is really just for like a first layer. I'm just sorry, just trying to make sure you can see this okay. I don't know if the
we see it very nicely, no problem.
Yes. So this would be like a first layer of glaze. And then I would let that dry and sort of work into that.
Mm-hmm.
This is where the Mottler is really good for seamlessly blending. Then if we take a contrasting color with a synthetic here, let's say, and then again,
okay.
Blended that too much, but
yeah, but it's about the idea now. I understand.
It is really just the idea. Yes, actually, I need a. I should have done it with this fan blender, because if we do another area. And then just lightly with a clean.
So you're working with these brushes, of course, absolutely dry with these badger hair brushes, and you use them perfectly for blending because the hair is strong and is coarse and is perfectly wonderful for that kind of work, right?
Yes, they're just depends. It's all about the pressure, really, in using these. I'm going to put that away and actually show you, like using a glaze. This is a painting that's kind of in progress.
Okay.
You could say that it's a bit like a sky.
But if you say it's just a layer, if you work on a bigger artwork, how many layers are there? Is there one layer? Are there more layers? How do I have to understand that, Suzi?
This painting has, gosh, several layers, probably maybe sort of, well, it probably has 4 or 5 layers at the moment.
All right.
And then
how many more? And how many more to come?
Sometimes you can end up with about 20 or 30 layers.
All right.
Okay. They really sort of, they end up very heavily layered, which is why it's quite a slow process with my work, because I build up the layers over time. But I'm just going to take a bit of take this sort of smoky sfumato color, which the Italians use a lot of.
Well, this is a famous word in art history, or sfumato.
Yeah.
Very famous word.
Yeah, it's a useful color. And you see that sort of okay. And then I'm just going to show how the Mottler can go in and make some really sort of interesting marks. Let's just get a bit more color on there.
That's an interesting color combination you are showing us here.
Muted. Right. And then again, if we take a clean, clean mottler, and we can go in and you can make these really sort of delicate marks.
Absolutely, you can tell, you can see how that works. Yes.
And if you want to sort of soften out.
Suzi, and your work is sold to private collectors, but is also to be seen in museum in the UK, right?
I've got I have pieces in various sort of institutions. I have a piece in the Imperial College Art Collection, and a lot of sort of corporates like Meyer and legal firms, and I have a big diptych up in Canary Wharf, so they're kind of all over the place, really.
And for those who do not know, I mean, you are, well, a lot of times, how can I say that? The virus is for you a topic which is coming back in a lot of your artworks, right?
Yes, I'm very interested in virology. You know, my father was a scientist, my mother was an artist, and also, I mean, I suppose the genesis of it came from having a virus that affects my eyesight, so I kind of deal with viruses on a daily basis. And I found that when I started my doctorate, I realized that that a lot of my painting and my abstraction was coming out of ideas from the body, really.
Okay.
And then I started to sort of look at the wider concerns, and of course started to work with Imperial College and to find out what they were doing, which was really interesting. So I go to their lectures and join their scientists to hear about what's happening in medicine. And it's interesting how it feeds into the work, because the paintings are really sort of, I'm painting sort of the unseen, ideas on the body and limitless spaces.
But if you talk about the unseen, and sorry that I'm now talking brushes again, for me it's kind of unseen that somebody is using the brush before is a watercolor brush, which is normally our Cosmotop spin, and now use it for delicate oil painting. We would never recommend this to anybody.
I know, I was going to say.
Why would you do that? Because for that kind of stroke, you prefer the extra soft fibers of the spin synthetic, which, as I say, we normally would never recommend for oil because the fibers are relatively thin in the diameter.
I find it very good, actually, for, it's such a delicate, yeah, the fibers are so delicate and thin, but for the way that I use oil paint, I really enjoy using it. And I think like most artists, we're always trying to push boundaries. And I think it can be interesting to try brushes, which maybe weren't necessarily, as you say, they weren't meant for oil color, but just to sort of see how they work. So,
but you are, I know you are very careful with your brushes, and that's what I have to add now as a brush maker. That of course, such a spin synthetic, delicate synthetic brush with oil color inside. I mean, you will have to clean this immediately this evening, or you cannot just let it stay like that, because then the next time you would have problems to use that brush again.
Oh yes, I mean, I am. I'm very careful with looking after the brushes. And
I can imagine. I can imagine.
Part of that has come from coming out to the factory and seeing how. I'll come back to you a moment. But yeah, coming out to the factory and actually seeing your artisans making these brushes, it's with such dedication that they are almost like pieces of art. And I always think this when I'm using any of the brushes, that I want to look after them because someone has put so much love into making this. And that had quite a profound effect on me when I saw your factory. I left thinking, goodness, Da Vinci Artists Brushes should be a lot more expensive than they really are.
Well, it's nice that you say this, and maybe we have these little details in a lot of parts. When you said that you were visiting our technical director, Dieter Kohlbauer, who developed this DUROPLUS system, of course, we needed also the people's hands to make the brushes. And we had to find, of course, a brush manufacturer, a handle manufacturer who was willing to invest into the tools to make the handles different from what was to be seen before, to have all these different little extras made so that this kind of different production was also going to be reality. And these may seem pretty easy steps from one side, but it means that somebody had to change a whole production line of handles to get this done. And this willingness from us, from my colleagues, from our artisans, from our technical construction department, as well as our suppliers, this is what we all need, that we can really make progress for the artists, for customers like you, who are absolutely rightly pointing out a problem which might have always existed, but nobody really thought that you can make it better. And this is what we really try all the time, that we have the option to bring better qualities in our market. Even if you look at the outside, you don't see it. That's our problem. And that's where we have to trust, and we have to convince people that everywhere where they are buying a Da Vinci brush, there is real quality involved, and somebody thought hard about it before it was launched for the market.
And is this system going to come into all the brushes?
It will be in all the Mottler brushes, but as I said, the rivets are only to be seen in the bigger sizes, and in the smaller sizes, you cannot see it. But it is all what we are now having is done like this with the system. And now we are even in a next step, even already working on making even the step from the ferrule to the handle more smooth. But this is still a little future music I am not really allowed to talk about. But this is the next thing we are working on it at the moment, Suzi.
Oh.
Yes, so this is still coming. And this is the nice thing, that we have still, of course, ideas where we can improve things for the future. Because we believe that also, and this was part of our discussion with the other companies at the beginning of the show, that we still believe that analog tools like brushes will be also necessary in future, even if everybody, especially during the pandemic times, even has to live more time in front of the computer and of the screen. Well, Zoom meetings and whatever.
I think the lockdown has been an ideal time for people to explore using paints and brushes. I've also brought a couple of paintings. One of them's finished, just again to show what the mottler can achieve if we have time. And
yeah, why not, Suzi?
Yeah.
Why, if you have prepared it, we would be stupid not to look at it.
There we go. And it's really, let's see, showing here, I don't know if you can see that, but it's just showing how delicate, I mean, it almost looks like a watercolor, but these sort of softened effects and leaving it slightly pronounced here is, it's just, you know, I couldn't do this without the...
But this is all done with your favorite series, with this Becher Blenders 5A2, where you get the final touch from, right?
Exactly. And I've, yes, I have the favorite. I have the favorite brush. I was very, very...
Well, we have to say now, of course, that you are also a Da Vinci brush ambassador, Suzi. And this was a special tool we made with your name on when you made and you finished your doctorate, because you were so fond of this special type of brush, which you say is the most important for your work, right?
Yes, I mean, this was such an honor to have my own brush. I mean, this is really special. And, I have to say it comes out on special occasions.
Yes.
Using that brush, this was just an idea of sky, sort of sky piece that I did a few years ago. Again,
okay.
using the mottler, just being able to vary the pressure to get these sort of softened effects. I should come back to. So yes,
well, this was very interesting, Suzi. What you have shown us now, and what we could, I think, have explained now better to our audience, what the quality of our Da Vinci mottlers are. Yeah, the invisible insides of it, because you are, as I say, not able to see this from the outside, just in a shop, and if you have nobody to explain the details.
No, and I think also, sorry.
No, it's all right, Suzi. Please.
No, I was going to say that I think sometimes as well, artists don't realize that if they have an idea that that you will make bespoke brushes, you know, like the mottler for me. I mean, I was fascinated this morning hearing again about the Quattro that you designed for an artist who wanted to have separate colors on 4 brushes, all with separate colors at the same time.
We were talking about that brush here.
Yes, I mean, it's these, this bespoke personalized service that I think that makes you a very special, well, the world leader in artist brushes. I think it's...
But I tell you now a secret. When our brush makers heard about this idea, they said, this is the best brush for cleaning the tires of a car which I have ever seen. So you see, you can always make more usages out of a brush than just to use it for different color. But don't get me wrong, I really respect that idea a lot. But you see, there are always also other ideas coming out of one idea. So
that's pushing the boundaries, definitely.
Suzi, I just want to ask my colleagues here, are there any questions from our audience? Are there special things we should answer in our discussion? Do we have any other things from outside? Have you any other things, Suzi, we should talk about now, or?
Yes, well, actually, it's interesting about you picking up on me using the spin for oil color. that it's not really meant to withstand it. And yet, you know, this spin that I've been using it for a while now, and it seems perfectly capable of withstanding.
But if you would be asked what purpose you are doing, or what painting technique you are trying to do when you have this softer, wider, yeah, it's a cat's tongue more or less, brush in your hand, when are you using this kind of brush? In which part of your work?
Well, you can see, if we go back to the painting a minute, you can see that I was using it in these areas here, if you can sort of see that. And it's just, it's the softness of the fibers. Because if I was to use a fitch on there, you know, because I want to soften it anyway, it's just they're just beautifully soft fibers, really, for working with.
And it fits perfectly for your kind of artwork here, which I can see. Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, maybe this is an idea we should give to people, that this brush is not only good for watercolor, but you can also use it for delicate oil painting. This is really something we have learned out of this today. And, you know, we should learn every day. So this is another good thing which came out of this conversation, Suzi. And as there are no other questions now coming, I can only say thank you for your time and for sharing your time with us for this conversation. And well,
thank you for having me. It's been an honor to come and share about brushes. I mean, just one other thing that just came to my mind with this one is the same with your grainers and flogging brushes and all these things. They make such interesting marks, and yet they're designed for either special effects or marbling, or so. Yeah, you have such a diversity of.
I get one question at the moment, Suzi, but this is not easy to answer. How long is the life of a normal brush used for oil paint? That's a difficult one.
What, as opposed to a Da Vinci brush?
No, in general, what do you expect from an oil painting brush? How long do you think you should be able to use an oil painting brush?
I think if you look after your brushes, you can have many, many years. I mean, I was clearing my other studio the other day, and I found it was a Da Vinci brush that I had used when I was at art school. And that's quite some time ago. That's
only 10 years ago, Suzi.
So again, I always looked after, because, you know, in those days when I'm in my 20s, you had to really save up to buy a Da Vinci brush. So you looked after it, and there's no reason why they shouldn't last for, you know, several years. You know, 10 years if you look after it well. It's all about looking after them.
Well, this is the best word to end this here, Suzi. Thank you very much again. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the interesting look into your private studio, which you allowed us today. Thank you very much, and have a nice day. Bye-bye, Suzi.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.